What's Papino? What's Papino? Zeke Black is in the building. Debbie, salute to this series I'm putting together. It's the Pat Porter, her story I respect. Shout out to Harlem. First and foremost, I would like to salute Kevin Childs, myself, and probably a couple of other people, definitely Dame Dash, who have sort of made AZ upset. You know, they got the Pay the Full 2 coming out. And his voice has been very loud about this whole Pay the Full thing. And that made it play a part to Pat Porter going up to Vlad. Now we're at the point where they're speaking about they're sort of in 88 now. 87, 88. But not so much yet. Probably the next one that they're gonna drop is definitely gonna be 87, 88. But they're touching on the black hand of Harlem preacher and her uncle, her favorite uncle, probably at that time, her Uncle Apple. And his relationship with the family. Again, it's taken back from the top. She did say she had a father in her life. So, like I said, the drug game was just something extra. She said that she was spoiled as a child, as a kid. Let's keep that in mind. So the drug money was just part of her lifestyle. She was already spoiled already. She had a father in her life. Now, the very interesting part about this is, in one of the episodes, she mentioned about the partners, right? She said, AZ, my brother, and the other guy. She doesn't mention the other guy. But it's weird that she actually mentions Preacher. And she mentions Preacher in this episode, not in a negative light so far. She said he was actually a nice guy when she was around him. Now, the streets may say a couple of things a little more different. A couple of guys that was paying. There's a couple of guys that was running. Bobby Brown. Not too many guys have made public appearances saying that they was victims of Preacher because of the heinous things that he's done. Not just cut you up. He was into other things. Some things weird. So you never really want to attach your name to Preacher unless you was down with his crew. For those that's not from America, his extortion game was on 1,000. Now, to give you a brief description of who Preacher was, it's a guy named, what's his name? Hold on one second. The only guy that come out the closet and say he had an issue, not out of the closet like that, but the only guy who has come out the woodworks and said he had an issue with the guy Preacher was a man named Roger Barnes. Roger Barnes said that he survived a Preacher situation. Roger Barnes was surviving his beef with Preacher. The only man to say he survived. The Black Hand of Death. This is Roger Barnes. Roger Barnes. Shout out to Harlem. This is his story. So I'll give you a description of what type of individual Preacher was.
And everything too. So when the police came, they
shout out to Vlad, you heard?
Yo, keep it in the street. You mentioned the old heads, Guy Fisher, Nicky Barnes. Yo, did you ever cross paths with Preacher? Cause he was running all up and through that hood back in the days. I'm talking about the Black Hand of Death, Preacher.
I'm gonna tell you a story. All right, we from the same block, 149th between 7th and 8th, right? So back in the days, this is old news. So back in the days, I had a spot in that block. You know what I'm saying? Preacher had a spot in that block. But Preacher is my old head. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm 55. Preacher should be about 67, 68. So this is the people that we came up underneath. So in one retrospect, it's okay. I respect the little nigga. But on the other retrospect, he messing up my money. We was getting money. So, but you got to remember, I'm only 19, 18 years old. So back at this time, we flying around with the whips. We got the girls. We got the this, that, and the other. Preacher is a seasoned vet. So he not only was just robbing people, he was selling drugs and everything too. So when the police came, they ran up in Preacher's apartment instead of running up in my apartment. And they took his man out, they took the drugs out and everything. So later on that day, I'm standing there, I'm talking to a girl, I see Preacher coming. Like, one thing about Preacher is he's a short, bow-legged dude, so you can see him coming 3 or 4 blocks away. So I see him coming. So I don't move, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I ain't going nowhere. So when he walks by me, he taps me on my shoulder, and he said, Barnes, to the block right now. So I'm looking at him, but you know, I got the girl here, so I don't really want to move when he say move. So I'm like, oh, what the fuck, you know? All right, I'm coming. So he said, yo, I said, come now. So I said, okay, I jump in the car, just got to ride 2 blocks. So I'm going to tell you a real story. Preacher looked at me and Preacher said, yo, what's up? You owe me some money. I said, yo, what I owe you for? He said, yo, you know, when the police came, they ran up in my spot instead of your spot. Y'all was out there making all that noise, blah, 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 blah. And this is a true story. I'm standing there, Rich Porter standing there, Alpo standing there, and Preacher had a grocery store on 149th and 8th Avenue, and this is where everybody used to go to drop that bag off that was paying them. So they looking like, okay, damn, that's Barnes. I wonder what's going to happen now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm standing there, I'm looking at them because I'm saying, yo, this is going to either make me or this is going to break me. So I look at Preacher in his face, and I said, yo, I just ain't going to let you punch me in my face. Because he had the audacity to tell me, yo, I would punch you in the face right now, except I don't feel like getting no blood on my clothes. So I'm going to tell you, and this is a real story. I had 1 foot on the sidewalk and 1 foot on the street. But my leg was shaking because of my nerves, but you couldn't feel my nerves. You couldn't see it. But underneath my pants, my leg is shaking because I said, this is the moment that's going to either make me or break me. So I looked at him and I said, yo, you ain't going to just punch me in my face like that. Now, mind you, Prez, across the street, I got my whole crew. And they looking like, yo, just say the word, we going to light the block up. But what they not realizing is this ain't going to stop right here. You see what I'm saying? Like, we busting off, but we busting off simultaneously. Like, it's just, they're strategically letting off. We don't know nothing about waiting for your mother, your father, your brothers, your sister. This was Preacher game. Our game was, if we got a situation, we gonna handle it right there, and that's that. We young. He's older, but I'm the oldest one out of everybody. I'm 19. So I gotta be the thinker here. So that's what I told him. He looked at me, I looked at him, and on everything I love, he walked away from me. And I played the cat and mouse game for about a month, right? And this is no story, you know what I'm saying? Big T-Rod, that was the person that gave me my first package. Person who looked out for me. He had a phenomenous name in the Bronx. He had a name in Harlem. So this was my old head. And he came into the SNS one night. If you know anything about Willie Berger's SNS Club. Yep. So I'm in the SNS Club, and he looked at me, and he said, yo, Barnes. I said, what's up? He said, why you ain't telling me you had a beef with Preacher? So I looked at him. I said, what you talking about? He said, man, you got a beef with Preacher? I said, yeah, we got a beef. He said, yo, that shit is dead. I said, what you mean? He said, man, I just left him, and that shit is over with. But why you ain't tell me? I said, because we was going to handle it ourselves. So he started laughing. I said, yo, how you dead the beef? He said, you want to know how I did it? I said, what? I told Preacher, I said, yo, Preacher, you got enough beef out here in the street than to have Barnes or one of these little niggas run up on you with a hood and bust you upside your head with a gun or something. He said, for real? He said, yeah, B, because that's just how it ends up. You got major beef out here, but one of these little niggas will be the one to get you. And he said, all right, tell Barnes it's over. And I swear to you, ever since that day, it was over. But I'm going to tell you something. The next week, he picked me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I got in the car with Preacher, and I'm thinking to myself, I was waiting on a cab, and he pulled up. And he said, yo, get in Barnes, I'll take you where you going. He said, where you going? I said, I'm going right up here to Polo Ground, the 155th. He said, all right. And when I got in that car, Prez, nobody seen me get in this car. I wonder if this problem really was over. Was he rocking me to sleep? And I'm not gonna lie, until this day, if I spoke to him, we would still be cool because we ended up being really, 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 really tight to the point when I got ready to go to jail. He said, yo, if you got any problems, call the phone. Because remember how you used to be able to call the block and you could call the payphone. He said, yo, just call the payphone and let me know whatever jail you get into and whatever problem you get into, and I'm going to handle it from here. And I said, cool. So that's my preacher story, you know what I'm saying? But it just goes to show that that was the first situation of many situations. But from that one situation was how the name got carried. And people said, yo, I survived the beef with preacher. It's funny you asked me that. But yeah, that's what that was about.
That's a crazy story, boy. I didn't even know that story.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a crazy one. And we bumped into each other a few more times after that. You know what I'm saying? Preacher was the type of dude that wanted to take it to the extent. You know, somebody had stole something from him one day and he told me to burn the whole building down. I said, yo, preacher, I'm not burning the whole building down. He said, yo, boss, didn't you put the gun underneath the steps? I said, yeah, I put the gun underneath the steps. I said, the gun ain't there no more, though. He said, that means somebody in the building got it. He said, yo, Barnes, if you don't walk around this whole building with gasoline and then light this motherfucker on fire, me and you got a beef.
Get out of here.
I swear that's my man. I'm not going to tell you no lie. I did not light the fire, and I can tell you, I didn't burn the building down, so that man never spoke to me again until I was going to jail for my body, and that's when he told me, he said, if you got a problem while you up there, let me know. Boom, boom. He felt like I didn't have enough heart to kill nobody, so he didn't want me around him. So it's funny, 5 years later, that when I finally did kill somebody, then he felt like I passed the test. So he was like, okay, you could come call the block. Let me know if you got a situation. Let me know if you got a problem and anything else. This was the type of mind that he had, and he wasn't the only one out there. You had to have that type of mind, even though they're killing each other more now. The people did kill back in those days was treacherous. So it was a whole different ballgame.
Just out of my own curiosity, did that building ever get burnt down?
Nah,
even if it wasn't for you, did he ever go through it?
Nah, he never did it. Nah, he never went through it. It was my responsibility. I'm going to be honest with you. It was my responsibility because I borrowed the gun from him. So I borrowed it from him to handle my situation.
Now, look, shout out Dow Bonds. Here's some key points right there, right? Preacher gave him a gun to handle a situation. The gun pop up missing the building. We don't know how many bodies is on the gun. You know what I'm saying? Most likely it was a dirty gun. But Preacher, being who he is, you'll blow the building up. This is the type of guy that Preacher was. You heard what he said. I should punch you in the face. You know what I'm saying? I should go upside your head. Listen, dude. That's how them OGs was talking to you back in the days. You want to know how New York OGs spoke to you? You heard what the man just said, get in the car, where my money at? Yo, I should slap you. You know what I'm saying? This is the type of things that happen. You got punched in the mouth here and there. You got thrown against the wall. You always felt the presence. Just calling somebody an OG did not mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? That shit didn't hold no weight. Yo, that's OG right there. That's just, you know what I'm saying? That shit, like somebody said, but they was right. I actually think it was LD. That was one of what Fat Joe, he said there's a difference between LTs and OGs. Yo, you know what I'm saying? That's OT right there. Because an OG won't be playing with you. He ain't smiling with you. Yo, where my money at? Oh, boom. You know what I'm saying? Did the slap come, the throw on the floor? Now, if y'all was paying attention, somebody might go, well, Zeke, why did you play this clip for? Because you heard what he said. For everybody that was so scared of Preacher, we seen the movie Paid in Full, right? If y'all would have deal with the facts across the world. Do you remember the store when Rich would go in and pass the money off? Allegedly, that's the store. You know what I'm saying? That's the store, right? So, Rich Porter, what he said, he was on the block, so that had to have been a popping block. That had to have been a popping block, 149th and 8th Ave, right? The store, right? What did he say? Alpo and Rich Porter was out there. Yo, it was Papino. Yo, it was Poe and Rich out there. Now, do you believe that Rich Porter relationship, since you're talking about plugs, relationship with Preacher was because of Alpo? Or was it because of Rich Porter's relationship with him. Apple was in jail. Remember, they said Apple was up top. So Apple might have been about something before he went to jail. Remember, they tie him into this true thing, but the drugs changed, the heroin game changed, things changed in the street. He's up north, different type of animal. But what did Darnell Porter say? Yo, Rich is on the block. So when Pat says, yo, when I was around Preacher, I want you to hear what she had to say if he wasn't like the animal he was. Listen, he told him to blow a building up. Allegedly, he got like 400,000 out of Whitney. You know what I'm saying? Allegedly, he cut a couple dudes up and they found some semen in them. Which about this type of individual. Dudes that when they seen the van rolling down, niggas started scattering. Individuals started scattering. Now, you're gonna go Zeke Black, but Zeke Black, what's the difference? She didn't tell Vlad, yo, chill. I don't want to talk about that, nigga. If he has something to do with her little brother, man. Right? Her little brother. She didn't stop him yet. There might be more, but she did not stop him. You know what I'm saying? And Don Rico, you're correct. You know what I'm saying? W shout out to the Bloody Bunch. Gangsta Lou said that he introduced Alpo to AZ and not Rich. But she's the sister. She said, yo, nah, Rich introduced me to Poe. Poe to AZ. She would know. So it must be a timeline thing. Unless somebody has a mixed up story. But you know what? I'm going with Pat on this one. In this situation, I'm going with Pat. He made a whole storyline about how he waited outside for hours and all this other crazy shit. And it didn't sound so waiting for hours if Josh was popping, your pops was popping, man. Josh, shout out to Josh. Josh in the building, man. For those that don't know who Josh is, shout out to the 518. That's my guy, right? But the important thing about Josh is Josh's uncle used to manage Mike Tyson. The original Mike Tyson, the team Tyson, Albany, New York. Leon Horn and Rory Holloway. They used to manage Mike Tyson in the beginning. Shout out to my man Josh. Knew Josh since the 90s, you know what I'm saying? From Albany, you know what I'm saying? My man Dewan. You know what I'm saying? My man Dewan, little Ace, you know what I'm saying? So you got royalty in here, you know what I'm saying? His family was around the original. When Mike Tyson had his first win, Mike Tyson's first 10 fights, his people was with Team Tyson. The Team Tyson that I remember wasn't in Brooklyn. Definitely. The Team Tyson that I remember, it wasn't in Brooklyn. They was in Albany, New York. That was his uncle, Leon Horn. His uncle, Leon Horn, and Rory Holloway. The 518. That's the original Team Tyson. Then after whatever happened with Mike started running around with other individuals. But I'm just going with the historical facts of Team Tyson. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of guys from Albany, New York that was a part of Team Tyson, the original Team Tyson, when he was winning them belts. When he fought Mitch Blood Green at the spot, that's the Team Tyson I'm talking about. The Team Tyson that fought that, yes. Yep, yes, Mr. Warbucks. We're dealing with the facts. Shout out to Brownsville, though. No takeaway from Brownsville. Let's get back to the dirt. The scoundrels out there. Definitely. I'm gonna find something on him, you know what I'm saying? Definitely salute the kickback. We do this for Harlem, and we do this to the people. Now, Preacher was a deadly man, right? We heard the story right there, right? Now, let's go on to another storyline. We're just doing our due diligence. Doing the do that do. The necessaries. The do's and the don'ts. Now look, the do's and the don'ts. You ask for a gun, you lose the gun. You know what I'm saying? It's the consequence. The consequence to that Darnell Barnes was blow the building up. But he didn't. But let me tell you how funny it was for him. Preacher stopped talking to him. Salute, 050. The crazy part about the Dow Bond situation is Preacher stopped talking to him so he went and put some pain in. So the question is, did he kill somebody that Preacher wanted dead? You know what I'm saying? He wound up catching the beat with the individual because Preacher embraced them after the body. It took you 5 summers to smoke something. That's what you just said, Dow. You know what I'm saying? Damn, that's a long time after talk to the black-headed deaf on the same block. I can imagine the pressure you felt when he rolled past you with that do-rag on with them big-ass hands, and he look at you. You have to tell your workers you're going out. You probably was going out of town, Roger. Roger was probably going OT by that time, bro. Nothing wrong with that, my nigga. Listen, my guy. I respect it. You start having to move around because once Preacher stopped talking to you, you already know the stories and the rumors. You know the rumor mill. It's a lie. You're the only guy that ever said this lie. We can't get Bobby Brown on here to admit what happened to him in the hands of Preacher right now. It'd be one of Bobby Brown's biggest stories. Yo, I want to ask you a question, Bobby. What was going on the 3 days that Preacher had you? You know what I'm saying? Now, so Preacher, so can we all admit that Preacher and Rich Porter had a friendly relationship? You all can admit that. Can we admit that? Okay. Let's go into WU2 Bulletin was popping. Mr. Warbucks, you here. Don Rico was popping. Can we admit that? That relationship wasn't built off of. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That your Billie Jean was goody. That relationship wasn't built off of Alpo and Randy Love. They had their own built relationship. And according to records, what Barnes said was, yo, maybe he didn't want to talk to me because I wasn't a killer. So what did he like about Rich? Rich wasn't a killer, right? That's what your claim, right? That's what everybody say. Killer. Yeah, Rich wasn't a killer. There's something about Rich that he liked. He had pro with him. But it seems to be that Preacher took the pump. You know what I'm saying? Now, there was allegations. I'm going to say allegations. You know what I'm saying? I believe that. There had to be something about that he respected. Because Dal Vaughn said he only killers hung around killers. So they paint this picture of Rich Porter that he's this pretty boy Harlem nigga that was just things was happening to, like he just put nothing in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, those two had a business relationship, and I believe that. I believe they had a business relationship because one advantage that they had was a cop, the ex-cop, right? The ex-housing cop. It's a Jack Frost guy, right? That was the advantage. The ex-cop put you on the other dirty cops. It's free money in Harlem. So again, when we went back into the 86, 87, 88 era in New York with the dirty cops, we can honestly say that he was tied in. Most of the hustlers that was paying for protection wasn't getting bothered by not just the extortionists, but not by police, and was being tipped off by tips. Yes. So, just like Mr. Roger Barnes said, Preacher was the all-around guy. He get the cops, he got the killers. He could solve your problems. He's the problem solver. Now, let's go to the black-handed deck. Now, this is what Kevin Childs had to say about him. Now, Kevin Childs is outside. You know what I'm saying? God, I hate the move. You know what I'm saying? These dudes is making moves. Now, this is what the great Kevin Childs had to say about him. Now, Kevin Childs is from another crew. He's from the Bronx, but he was getting money but he was getting money in Manhattan. Like, you know what I'm saying? I guess I gotta say allegedly Grand Projects because I noticed I'm not trying to get nobody jammed up. But shout out to when I'm talking about when you had Seafood Haven on 125th. I got Madison Avenue, Madison 12 Seafood Haven. The Jamaicans right there on Madison and all that shit and all them. We going into that era party, people. Going into that era party, people. Mark 25 was popping. Dapper Dan was popping. Mark 25 was popping. We're talking the talk, New York. We're talking the talk. For those that's not from here. Now we're going to go into what Kevin Childs had to say. Kevin Childs was getting a different type of money. Rest in peace to Nappy Red. Shout out to my man George Weaver and Deshaun Carney used to be in Grand Projects. We're going to take this to the take. We're taking this to the take. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We're talking, because right now, we hit 86, 87, 88. This is before the dudes and queens decided to kill a cop. You know what I'm saying? This is when police, you did go to jail, but the feds was chasing around ex-Black Panthers a little bit, bank robbers, heroin dealers, and if you got caught with a whole bunch of coke, that was your fault. You know what I'm saying? But there's actually also chasing around dudes that was fucking with that PCP. That PCP was like, get that. There was a strong war on that shit. But that's a whole nother story. Shout out to Big Dave, the rest in peace, King Dave, everything in Tab Projects, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know, salute to Dieter, my man Sean Moe and all of them, you know what I'm saying? I used to play tag with Sean Moe when I was a kid. Dirty Darnell and all of them. My cousin, rest in peace, Ty, you know what I'm saying? FTW, the originals, FTW, man. We're talking the talk, New York. Now let's get back to the get back. Shout out to my man Kevin Childs. Kevin Childs, right? He says this on Vlad. Shout out to Vlad for I'm gonna be honest with you, Vlad has not zapped none of my videos. Now, the reason why I'm wearing the St. Louis thing now is because I definitely salute to St. Louis, another market I'm in. Now this is for all you party people that wanted that would like to meet me. I will be in New York City between January 5th and whenever. You know what I'm saying? I could wave, I could do walkthroughs, whatever you need me to do, I'm there. Zeke Black will be in the 5 boroughs on the 5th. Now, with that being said, shout out to Kevin Childs, right? Kevin Childs well versed, you know what I'm saying? A legend in his own right. Sometimes you gotta let somebody sound stupid when they say something. You're telling me that you gotta drop on Tom Cross, allegedly. But your man fuck with Tom Cross. How is this gonna play out? A nigga who know where your mother live at. A nigga that I heard does all this crazy shit on the east side, whatever he's doing, he's gonna allow me to give you a drop on this nigga. Like, son, you can't make this shit up. The Ricky and the retardos be crazy, son. But shout out to Kevin Childs for seeing through the smoke. You know what I'm saying? You know, them high bridge niggas a little smart anyway. All them Bronx niggas is different. Them high bridge niggas was eating Cheerios and all that shit when they was a kid. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them niggas had some good parents. Y'all look at the high bridge section, these niggas is poor. A lot of them niggas came from good homes. You know what I'm saying? Get to Kevin Childs, man. Shout out, man, Vlad, man. Vlad ain't zapped me yet, man.
You had a crew of, it was about 100 people or so.
Now,
at one point.
now, let me cut this. Now, hold on, let me stop. Now, let me stop the cameras. Now, to be well versed here. See, why is my Kevin Childs? Okay. I don't know Kevin Childs, but there was a kid in my class that's from the west side of Harlem that used to hang out in Kevin Childs' store. And some of y'all might even know him. His name was Eddie Cash. He's from wherever he used to go to Wiley, whatever. But he was good friends with Kevin Childs. He used to be in my class. When the situation happened with Darnell, he was in my class. Shout out to Eddie Cash. You know what I'm saying? He would always come and talk about how the girls would go crazy for Poe poking to the west side, how sometimes Poe would always go to the store where Kevin Childs was at. But at that point in time, to my knowledge, Eddie Cash, whatever he was doing, he was more so fucking with Kevin Childs. Just to give you a piece of it, but Poe would always be over there. And Poe was very popular on that part of the West Side. They would say all the girls would come outside for Al Poe. Al Poe got these young girls losing their mind. And he was the wave. But we're being well versed here. We can make some phone calls. I went to Norman Thomas High School. That's the high school I went to, East 33rd Street. If you see the movie called Strictly Business with Tommy Davidson and Halle Berry, that bank, that's my high school. You've been in Manhattan, it's about 34th Street between Lex and Park. Let's get back to the content. Kevin Childs was popping. Make it happen. Shout out to Harlem.
At various times, and you'd be the one that has to come up with their bails,
Right.
and then they would usually skip.
You know, I would suggest it. Like, I wouldn't, like, if they didn't want to go back, the money was, you know, in regards to the money, your freedom is priceless. So if, you know, they got convicted and they allowed us to have an appeal bond to pay, I would pay that out and tell them don't go back.
So they would just go on the run.
Yeah, they would go on the run.
And you literally lost millions of dollars
And bail money.
in bail money.
Absolutely.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was just part of the cost of doing business.
Yeah, and I love my guys.
Along with success on this level, you start to build up a culture of people who were robbing the drug dealers.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. There's a kid named Shavar.
Yeah.
Who I guess was 14 at the time.
Right.
You had just met him, and he got robbed like right
Second
afterwards.
day I met him. Not 24 hours.
Not 24 hours.
Not 24 hours at the minute.
And this was like on one of the blocks that you controlled.
Right.
So you actually ended up getting into a shootout over that situation.
Yeah, we did.
Was that the first shootout you were in?
It probably was. Yeah, it probably was.
Okay. And you didn't get shot.
No, he got shot though.
He got shot, and I guess the guy who robbed him
Right.
got shot. But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that was pretty early on. That was probably like 86, maybe 87. Yeah.
Right, because then entire crews started to build up that didn't want to deal drugs, but wanted to rob drug dealers.
Right.
I guess they're white guys that are going around dressed as cops.
Right.
So what would happen in those situations?
When Harlem specifically, anybody who knows anything about Harlem, and more,
I think he's talking about the Wild Cowboys. And he said, yeah, white guys was dressed up as cops. I think he's talking about the Wild Cowboys that was uptown. There might have been some other white boys that was doing that too, but the Wild Cowboys was doing that also. Also, you see the years he mentioned, 86, 87. Isn't that the timeline we in, right? Rocky Jackets, Deodoras, Uptowns was like $100. You know what I'm saying? Up with the black, the high top one with the straps, the black and white ones. You still, there's the stay here. The stay here. Where else you got? The Rocky Jackets. What was you listening to? Biz Markie, right? Biz Markie, music make the Biz. 87. Jungle Brothers. Guy. Keep Sweat. In 87.
more specifically in New York City, Harlem's where everyone goes and all five boroughs come to like hang out because that's where they call it Money Making Manhattan. So it was on full display when you went to Harlem. Like you could just walk up and down and you could feel the money. Like especially during that time, it was just money everywhere. And like you said, there were guys who eventually, no different than we developed crews. There's always a anti to anything, a left or right, up or down, a go or stop. People making money, people taking money. So yeah, these individuals figured out, which was ingenious when you think about it, because it probably was from the neighborhood that probably did some time, knew some white guys that fit the bill, you know. And what they were doing was they would
pull you over in unmarked cars, and pretend badges around their necks, the whole thing, and pretend to be police officers. And a lot of times they would handcuff you and put you in the back of the car. Once they literally kidnapped you, they would force you to make a phone call and, tell somebody, hey, I'm kidnapped, bring X amount of money. And in most instances, people complied because, who do you go tell? Like, you're a drug dealer, so this is sort of like part of the cost.
Right, because in the previous, time frame, the Italian mafia was running that. Right. So you knew that if you robbed one of these guys, right, you were robbing
the risk.
You were robbing the mafia. And there was real repercussions because you're robbing a whole organization.
That's a fact.
Not just a crew of 1 or 2 or 5 people.
Right. That's true.
So there was a level of fear.
Right.
But then once you guys took over and no longer had to deal with the Italian mob, there wasn't that level of kind of fear and respect with the robbers.
Well, there was always respect, but there are certain people who are short-sighted when it comes to just money. Because what happens when you have money, you have power, But you're right, as far as the description between the one concept versus the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then, surprisingly enough, the robbery crews actually had their own names.
They did.
There was the Young Guns.
They were.
There was the Lynch Mob. These serial killers, basically.
Young Guns. Shout out to the Young Guns.
They would usually skip.
Lynch Mob, Lou Sims and them.
I would suggest it. Like, I wouldn't, like, if they didn't want to go back. The money was regardless of money, your freedom is priceless. So if, they got convicted and they allowed us to have an appeal bond to pay, I would pay that out and tell them don't go back.
So they were just going to run.
Yeah, they was going to run.
And you literally lost millions of dollars.
In bail money.
Absolutely. Millions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was just part of the cost of doing business.
Yeah, and I love my guys.
Along with success on this level, you start to build up a culture of people who were robbing the drug dealers.
Yeah. They go hand in hand.
Yeah. There's a kid named Shavar.
Yeah.
Who I guess was 14 at the time.
Right.
You had just met him. And he got robbed right
after. Second day I met him. Not 24 hours after
24 hours.
24 hours after I met him.
And this was on one of the blocks that you controlled.
Right.
So you actually ended up getting into a shootout over that situation.
Yeah, we did.
Was that the first shootout you were in?
It probably was. Yeah, it probably was.
Okay. And you didn't get shot.
No, he got shot, though.
He got shot, and I guess the guy who robbed him got shot. But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that was pretty early on. That was probably 86, maybe 87. Yeah.
Right, because then entire crews started to build up that didn't want to deal drugs but wanted to rob drug dealers.
Right.
I guess there are white guys that are going around dressed as cops.
Right.
So what would happen in those situations?
When Harlem specifically, anybody who knows anything about Harlem, and more specifically in New York City, Harlem's where everyone goes and all 5 boroughs come to hang out, because that's where they call it money making Manhattan. So it was on full display when you went to Harlem. Like, you could just walk up and down and you could feel the money. Like, especially during that time, it was just money everywhere. And like you said, there were guys who eventually, no different than we developed crews. There's always an anti to anything, a left or right, up and down, a go or stop. People making money, people taking money. So yeah, these individuals figured out, which was ingenious when you think about it, because it probably was someone from the neighborhood that probably did some time, knew some white guys that fit the bill, and what they were doing was they would pull you over in unmarked cars, and pretend badges around their necks, the whole thing, and pretend to be police officers. And a lot of times they would handcuff you and put you in the back of the car. Once they literally kidnapped you, they would force you to make a phone call and, tell somebody, hey, I'm kidnapped, bring X amount of money. And in most instances, people complied because, who do you go tell? Like, you're a drug dealer, so this is sort of like part of the cost.
Right, because in the previous, time frame, the Italian mafia was running that. Right. So you knew that if you robbed one of these guys, you were robbing
the risk.
You were robbing the mafia. and there was real repercussions because you're robbing a whole organization.
That's a fact.
Not just a crew of 1 or 2 or 5 people.
Right. That's true.
So there was a level of fear.
Right.
But then once you guys took over, no longer had to deal with the Italian mob, there wasn't that level of kind of fear and respect with the robbers.
Well, there was always respect.
I'm speaking.
There are certain people who are short-sighted when it comes to just money.
Well, then, I mean, surprisingly enough, the robbery crews actually had their own names.
They did.
There was the Young Guns. To basically set them up and kill them.
Well, that was a situation where that happened. There was an individual that definitely got robbed, and one of the drug dealers was hitting another organization that the person who was basically getting extorted and robbed reached out to them and said, "I have a problem," and the person who they was hitting in that organization said, we could take care of it for you.
Right. So they basically, I guess, had a meeting with 3 members of the Young Guns. It was an ambush. The 3 of them just got killed.
Right.
Then there was Clarence Preacher Heatley,
Right.
a.k.a. the Black Hand of Death.
Right.
That's really what they called him?
I think that might have came from the press. I mean, we didn't call him that. We just know him as Preacher.
Well, he pled guilty to 13 murders.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, not only did he kill people, but he would torture them.
Right.
Then they just dismember the bodies. I guess he had kidnapped Bobby Brown at one point.
Yeah, I found that out after the fact. But yeah.
And I guess he was actually linked to the kidnapping of Rich Porter's younger brother.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Which I want to talk about in a little bit. So you kind of had these serial killers basically on the street.
I guess, yeah, if you look at it and then you define what a serial, you could define them as such, yeah.
So you guys had to protect yourselves.
Absolutely.
And it turned into, you described it as an arms race.
Right.
Where you literally have stockpiles of guns and body armor. And so you would be basically leaving the house, you put on your vest, strap your gun in.
Right.
Now look how Lad asked Kevin Childs the same question that he asked Pat. But Pat didn't throw him off like, yo, he did that. She just kept it normal. She actually said, yo, he wasn't even like that when the times I was around him. So there's a reason for that, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's going to come out the more that she speaks. I believe a lot that played a part to the nephew was Apple. I think it was more so Apple. But since Apple was allegedly attached to Preacher's crew, the tag, whatever how they broke that down, but we have to hear more of the story. But this is the type of dude that Preacher was. 13 homicides. 13 that they know about. Dead bodies all over the place. Hold on, let's get to it. This is the type of guy that they're talking about. That he ran fair through Harlem. You know what I'm saying? We get to the get down. All right. Hold on a second, man. Let's see him. We get some. Hold on a second. Yeah, we had. Yeah. But the one that she did with Troy Reed, the first one was basically overshadowed by what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? Hold on one second. Now, 87, where he said was a different time, it took different bosses. You see how he said how they said when you robbed the drug dealer before that time, it was attached to the mafia. So if you robbed somebody that was getting money, most likely the mafia get mad and they start sending those shooters at you. So a lot of guys was probably scared to rob a lot of hustlers because they knew what they had behind them because they was getting hit by the alleged mafia. You know what I'm saying? So what freed a lot of the generation actually was the crack era. That was one thing that was able that dudes wasn't have to do, that individuals didn't have to attach themselves to the mob. It was a different market, even though the mafia controlled one market, but this new market was able to go. I don't have to go see. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to go see Little Tony. I could go see Chinito. You know what I'm saying? For this price. You know what I'm saying? Yes, they was older. Yes, they was older. A lot of them came from the beginning hip hop stages and all that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I told you, it's a unique story, man. It's a very unique story. Um, let me get to the get right. Let's see. Uh, Hold on 1 second. In other news, he locked up the preacher. The preacher keep playing around at the pastor, bishop. The bishop keep playing games. He got what he wanted. He got himself cased up. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the bishop. The bishop keep playing with the people. That's what those are repercussions. The penitentiary. Hold on 1 second. Give me a second, party people. All right, here go the New York Times, party people. I'm gonna do some reading here. So reading in the class. New York Times is one of the top newspapers for those that's not in America. Bronx Ron B.S. was popping. Ron Books was goody. The New York Times is one of the top newspapers in the country. For those that's not from America that's watching this show right now. November 15th, 1996, 18 indicted on murder and drug charges. This is it right here. New York Times, party people. 18 people identified as members of a violent multi-million-dollar crack game, including a former New York City housing police officer, were indicted yesterday on racketeering charges that involved 11 murders and drug dealing that terrorized Harlem and Bronx neighborhoods for the last decade. This is the newspaper article, people, party people. The 47-count indictment instilled in federal district court in Manhattan charges that Clarence Heatley, a 43-year-old man, he was old already. In 1996, Preacher was old already, who grew up in Harlem, funded the Preacher Crew in 1983. He was called the Preacher because his persuasive orality, the authority said. Later recruited the housing police officer John Cuff, who was working in the Bronx from 1982 to 1987 to help run the enterprise. Law enforcement officials said the former housing officer alone is charged with 8 murders. 14 gang members are in custody and 4 others are being sought, the authority said. Since 1983, the gang members extorted money from drug dealers, dealt drugs, and maintained the group's business by systematic violence against their enemies, the indictment said. The gang is charged with 11 murders, 11 conspiracies to commit murder, and narcotic trafficking. They were very good at what they did, and they always made an effort to make sure that there was no witnesses. The United States Attorney in Manhattan at that time, Mary Jo White, said at a news conference yesterday, they were careful, they were smart, and they were intimidated. All those among them drug dealers and citizens alike. The Preacher Crew was recently headquartered in the Bronx, where Mr. Heatley lived with Yvonne Miller, an accused gang member. But the gang is said to have carried out most of its activities in Central and West Harlem. A law enforcement official said Mr. Heatley was also known by residents as the Black Hand of Death and was so feared by dealers in Harlem that they paid him $10,000 to $30,000 to be left alone to operate their own drug businesses. Missy Healy is said to have regularly controlled the gang, prohibiting members from using drugs, fighting each other, or stealing drugs or money from the gang. The victims included competitors and other gang members, the indictment said. Mr. Healy is charged with 9 murders. He and Mr. Cuff have been in prison since late August when they was arrested on federal racketeering narcotics charges stemming from the killing of 2 gang members whose bodies was found in Queens in December 1993. Mr. Cuff was dismissed from the housing police force after he was caught in a robbery and failed the drug test, according to law enforcement officials who spoke on condition of immunity. In 1989, he was arrested for a killing in Baltimore, but was acquitted in trial after witnesses changed their testimony. While Mr. Cuff was a housing police officer and a gang member, the United States Attorney General said there was some use made of his official position in order to get payments on time. Off duty, Mr. Cuff drove Mr. Healy around as a bodyguard, law enforcement officials said. Mr. Healy is said to have frequently supervised the punishment of members of the preacher crew, which at times is bringing in $1 million annually in profits. So this is the preacher school. This is at the day they got locked up. This was the newspaper that was written in 1996 in the New York Times. See, I told you had a cop on the payroll. He didn't get fired to 87. They put the crew together in 83. You know what I'm saying? Dirty cops on the payroll. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Well, Mo in the building. Shout out to Mo. Mo was in the building. Preacher was so this name that they're speaking about, this man's name is dangerous. This is a very dangerous individual. That's going into that, right? Now, we're going to hear more. Hopefully, Vlad puts another clip out explaining Apple's involvement in the situation. You know what I'm saying? Billie Jean, I don't know. He may have had a friendship. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So so we're hearing the story of Preacher. You know, Kevin Childs, he caught a Fed charge. He's official staple in hip hop, right? And hip hop, not just hip hop, but the streets. Because just like Roger Barnes said, you have to move strategic with them. Just because you kill him, these dudes are snatching up grandmothers. You know what I'm saying? They'll snatch your arm up. So even if you dared to kill Preacher, the war wasn't over. Everything was strategized. You see what he told about. I don't know if he was here, D-Moore. Shout out to St. Louis. Shout out to West St. Louis, North St. Louis, South St. Louis. But definitely shout out to the West Side. Shout out to White Southern Bell. One thing that he said was, Preacher said, blow the building up. So his crew was very deadly. I think people were scared to kill him, honestly. Not scared to kill him, but it was like, if we kill him, we got to kill the crew. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because that would have made sense, but I think you'd have had to kill the crew. It was bigger than killing him. Like, he built a cult of killers. He was a different type of killer. He played, your first class was popping. He played by a dirty set of rules. Preacher played by a dirty set of rules. There's stories I heard, shout out to my mans from 145th and Edgecombe. But they said there was times when dudes that owe Preacher money, that van come in and he talk to you, he's smacking dudes up. If you seen the van coming, listen, and the messed up part about this is, out of those 18 bodies or 13 bodies, at least 10 of them are official names that was in the street at that time. These was dudes that was getting to the bag. At least 10 of them, y'all might have heard about. Oh, sure, boy, Preacher killed them. You know what I'm saying? I was on the east side when he found those bodies. Yeah, I was on the east side. At that time, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was on the east side when all that happened on the concourse and they kicked the doors in 1996. Now I just came home. I came home in 96 from doing my little push-ups and shop. Yeah, but that part of the Bronx is dirty, dingy, and dangerous. You know what I'm saying? I remember that part of the Bronx is different. I mean, that part of the Bronx is Grand Concourse. So, you know what I'm saying? Those buildings are very old. You know what I mean? Even though it smelled, nobody cared. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's just because those areas, definitely shout out to the west side of the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Davidson. I don't know if Davidson on the west side, but all that dark side shit, all that shit, Andrews and all that. On that, I never seen. I seen a piece of them talk about. I never really watched it. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, keep talking, part. You know what I'm saying? Keep vibing, party people. Definitely. You know what I'm saying? It was a different type of animal. It was a different time in the streets, party people. You know what I mean? I definitely like to shout out, the people that definitely support from these other countries because, I know that I'm not just speaking to people in New York, you know what I'm saying? Um, so definitely shout out to the United Kingdom for your support, Canada for your support, Australia for your support, and Germany for your support. Thank you. I appreciate you. Also, as well, I like to shout out Jamaica, United States of America, Australia, Switzerland, and Canada for your support. Salute to y'all. You know what I'm saying? We see y'all, the wolves see y'all. Thank you for all your support. You know what I'm saying? And you can always jump in the comments. So don't be scared because we're Americans. You're learning something today. You're learning something. You know what I'm saying? Zach, you're learning something today. You know what I'm saying? Now, 1996 was different in New York. It was a lot of money, $1 million. I remember I came home from jail. I remember I came home from up north. I just came home from up north. You know, some things going to the streets is changing, the blocks is changing, but New York was still New York though. Those are the last good years of the cloth, the mid '90s. It was definitely the last good years of the cloth. You know what I'm saying? Now, the amazing part about this story is that Pat, when she mentioned Preacher, now remember there was a lot of money catch on the west side of Harlem at that time. You can't think about the other legends that you know what I'm saying? Like we just can't forget about the legends. One thing I can honestly say, AZ didn't have Preacher problems. So unless he was extremely low playing a cat and mouse game, AZ was good. You know what I'm saying? It sounded like he didn't have Preacher problems. Yeah, he was old already though. He was like 49 years old, 43 when he bagged him. They called him Pops. Yeah, he's making the money, man. There that go. They was making some money, man. We definitely put it together. Exactly. That's the funny part about. Wow. How could he be that? Exactly. He never said he had preaching problems. He said all them other sugar crews, but he never said preaching problems. Like what you said, Mr. Warbucks. How, like, that's crazy. You're making all this money. You changing the coke game, the prices is low, and preacher ain't thinking about you. He riding past your niggas. Like, he ain't even worried about what you're doing. I'ma go with, I might be reaching. The reason why he didn't bother A is because of Rich Porter. I think the relationship that Rich had with Preacher may have kept Preacher off of A. Because that's true. The relationship probably started from Apple. The relationship probably started from Apple, being the young nephew, Apple, those are his people. And just as you're getting older, you build your own relationship with this guy. And as you're building this relationship, yo, I'm not gonna violate you because A. But you gotta keep in mind, Rich was, they was doing business. Who knows what business Preacher and Rich had, but they was doing some things. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So A was protected, we can say, and the only certain dudes that would try. You know what I'm saying? They would try, and that's where the outposts and the new shooters come at. Like, yo, those are your beefs. You guys, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You have to step to your beef. Sometimes in the game you have to make a statement. You can't keep letting dudes rob you and you run into somebody else to save the day. So sometimes you have to get mad and send your soldiers. It sounds crazy, it sounds unusual, it sounds cool and unusual, but sometimes you have to send the soldiers. And sometimes some of the soldiers you got, they may not make, I'm not with all that. Or I'm not ready to go to war. Some dudes, the game was changing. Then you meet a new guy ready to go. Here, I got 3 guns for you niggas, go. And that's, it becomes a situation like that. Business, never personal. A lot of times we're personalizing the conversation, not looking at the business. But I like it. It's weird. That's what we're going to find out, Mo. We're going to find out where it went wrong in their relationship. That's the thing. It had a good relationship. Now we need to find out where it went wrong. Something went wrong. But sometimes, again, this is where I'm going to go. Sometimes people do things that's out of your control. Sometimes people do things that you can't control. You can't control. But you have to, you have to be smart about it. It was said that Preacher said, yo, let Darnell go. But allegedly they still did what they did to Darnell. But we need to hear more. But whatever the fallout between Rich and the Preacher was, maybe Pat a touch on that. D. Morris, that's what I think too. You know what I'm saying? I heard he's home now. I think they did it. They did a move. Peace. Mr. West, every shout out to Buffalo, shout out to Crown Court CV. Every shout out to my man Crown Court CV. He's back. Check out that content. Crown's back. Check out my man Unique. He got the whole video out. Now I'm not gonna lie to you. At that time, they kidnapped kids. Nowadays, but the feds was coming, or dudes assume the feds is coming from past experiences. But when you do something, there's nothing that you could do. But now, Preacher name is on it behind the scenes. Even the streets, the first thing the streets is gonna say is, "Yo, Preacher did it." Yo, but it had to be them niggas because his name and you know what I'm saying, the relationships. Apple. I don't know. They might get the okay from Preacher though. Between me and you, it's a bag full. It's a bag. You know what I'm saying? It's a bag. If he give his story, it's a bag full. Yeah. I think Apple jumped out the window, man. Yeah. Hell yeah. I think Apple jumped out the window. That's what I believe. He jumped out the window, man. Yeah. Now, mind you, 500K in 1989 was a lot of money compared to the dollar. So $500,000 in 1989 was like having $750,000. You know what I'm saying? I think the worst part about the situation was not touching up on rest in peace Darnell was Darnell heard the voices. And the one voice he heard was his uncle. There was no turning back after that. There was no turning back after that. But we got to hear more from Pat. This is Pat's story, the real paid in full. Somebody who was around, who heard the stories, that sat for the that under that like she said nothing bad about Preacher so far. She didn't go, yo, what? Boom. See what I'm saying? Yeah. I like what you said, Will. When the guy on Preacher team killed Darnell, they killed that dude, had his head kicking it around like a soccer ball. Because Preacher most likely knew Darnell. You know, there was times that Rich came through the block with his little brother. So he probably knew Darnell. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Should let him go. So a Preacher said let him go. It wasn't about the bag. Well, let him go, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's a dirty game, man. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's foul. Something that should have never happened. It's something that should have never happened. That's what I'm saying. She said nothing bad about him. You know what I'm saying? She said nothing. She said nothing bad about him. Yeah, exactly. Well, she said like Poe, that other guy. She said nothing bad about Preacher. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure they're gonna put another clip out, so I don't want to waste 2 hours talking about this when I know that there's more clips coming out, and he might touch on the Apple next. I got you. So he didn't kill him over Rich brother. You know what I'm saying? He wound up being a wild animal. You can't control him. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But it's weird. I want to ask you a question. When Apple got locked up, why did he mention the Darnell situation? Isn't that what happened? We would never know that Apple was involved until Preacher, when he thought Preacher was going to tell on him or something like that. Then that's when he decided to tell his story. Let's see what Apple had to say. What's Apple's real name?
Why are you angry at the NFC East? Because of that.
It's my man, Coach Dave, right? Apple. What's it? Johnny Porter, right? People say he got released from prison. Let me see. Let me see what I can find for y'all, man. Hold on, I think I may find something because he did some telling. All right, this is what I got for you. This is Preacher's appeal, I guess. He put an appeal in. I don't know why, but he put an appeal in. You know what I'm saying? You hear me? I guess every man needs to fight for their freedom. It goes defendant, it goes judge, Sotomayor. There's a project named after by Bronxville Projects. I guess that's where she's from. The federal prosecutor. I think she's from the Bronx, by Bronxville. They call it, last name is Sotomayor. It goes, defendant John Porter moves to court to suppress statements he made to agents of the New York County District Attorney Office prior to his indictment and arrest on charges in this case. He claimed that these statements was made after the agents promised him that he would not use his statements against him. So I guess he, all right, all right. To accomplish his meeting, rather turned down, detectives now employed. Capers had previously contact with Porter and some of his family members several years earlier while investigating the murder of Darnell Porter, John Porter's nephew. Capers also familiar with some of Porter's alleged criminal activities. After attempting unsuccessfully to locate Porter on his own, Capers talked with Porter's niece and asked her to convince Porter to talk to her. So she did so, and on August 29, 1996, Capers drove to the vicinity of 130th Street and 7th Avenue in Manhattan, where Porter met at approximately 8:30 p.m. Capers and Porter talked first in Capers' car. Porter inquired as to Capers' position, and Capers informed him that he was an investigator for the district attorney's office. Now, what niece you think they was talking about? They probably was talking about Pat. You know what I'm saying? But get some meat and potatoes, man. So this is when he was fighting his appeal, saying whatever statement he gave, the cop lied to him and said that he wasn't going to use it in court. He wound up using it against him. I have to do a show on this because there's a lot of reading to do. Now, you know what the ill part about this was? How the hell did he get around sitting around his family all day, and I'm not realizing that this man played a part to Darnell's death? It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta hear the rest of what Pat Porter got to say. Debbie, shout out to my man. Shout out to my man. My man Marley, shout out to the GM family. You heard? Definitely. I'm gonna look at it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check out my man Marley from the GM fam. Shout out to Northside Queens, you heard? Shout out to the whole Queens, though. Shout out to my man Marley in the building. He said, this pic I just put on IG, our pay phones right in front of the building. They were killing people on 180th Street in the Grand Concourse. You know what I'm saying? So, as crazy as it sounds, hold on a second. They say he out of jail, man. So yeah, we gotta hear more from her. I think we gotta hear more because we hearing a piece of it. We gotta hear more. Yeah, the uncle's definitely paying attention. You know, he was. You know what I'm saying? He was definitely paying attention, man. Now this is what Pat said. Definitely was James. This is what Miss Porter said. Shout out to Vlad. Vlad hasn't zapped me yet. It's very. I think it was very intense. She says the story about her favorite uncle. Everybody has a favorite uncle. This is her favorite uncle. Shout out to Pat Porter. Pat's story. You heard? Let's get to the get down.
Okay. So then 1989 rolls around. You guys had a favorite uncle named Johnny. Johnny is your mom's brother?
My mother's brother.
Okay.
Same mother, same father.
Leading up to 89, what was your relationship with Johnny?
Well, by 89, I'm already out the house, my mother's house. I'm with AZ, with his family, with our family. And I see my uncle once in a while. Like I might be out with A, and I might be sitting in the car. And I remember sitting in the car in front of the video shop, the jukebox they had. And my uncle came up on me and was just, "How you doing? You okay? How's it?" Like I would see him out and about. But before, like, I went to start my own family, like, he was in jail and stuff, and my mother always took us. Like, she would get on the bus at the night and travel through the night to get to the whatever state he was in, Green State or whatever, all the jail houses he was going through. My mother always was the person, and she had a younger sister. She had two younger sisters, but it was just my mom who took us on the visits with her to see him. If he had family day, we would go and be in the whole jail prison with the uncle. And so our relationship was good. Like, I feel like I learned how to write penmanship better with him because I used to be like a pen pal to him. I wrote him, he wrote me. I would talk about music. This is like what our relationship was because he's in jail. When he came home, I was already starting my life with my daughter, A, and stuff like that. So I would just really see him periodically, not like seeing him in prison or nothing like that. But like that was our favorite because she had other brothers. She had other brothers, but this was the one we was closest to.
Okay. And he was part of a crew called Preacher's Crew, who was run by a guy named Preacher, a.k.a. Clarence Preacher Heatley, who was also known as the Black Hand of Death. Preacher later on pled to 13 murders, and what he was known for was not just killing people, but actually torturing people and cutting up their bodies. There's also a rumor that he kidnapped Bobby Brown at one point. No one quite knows if it's true or not, but you knew Preacher yourself.
Yeah, I knew him.
Okay.
I met him. I've been around him, yes.
Was he a scary individual, or was it just another guy in the neighborhood?
I mean, I didn't think he was scary being in his presence, but I guess you don't know. People, like I said, show you who they want you to see them as. I never felt threatened by him at that time.
So you just gotta wait to see what else Pat Porter puts out on his story. Hopefully they keep it going. Shout out to Pat. Salute to Pat. She has more to say because I'm pretty sure he asked her some more stuff dealing with that timeline. So now we're in 88, 89. Basically, 88, 89. That's the year we in. Shoebox, AZ, family. She out the crib. Things changed in 89, though, the end of the year. Now, with that being said, tomorrow we're going to be doing another show. I'm pretty sure they're going to drop another link. We on go. It's feeding the wolves, you know what I'm saying? It's feeding the wolves, man. It's a different time than 88, 89. By that time, it's a pandemic. Some other than that happened in 89. They killed the cop in Queens. So a lot was happening in 88, 89. The streets was changing. Prices was dropping. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Well, what am I put here? Definitely, shout out to everybody that pulled up this morning. I appreciate y'all. You know, we're doing the necessary necessaries, you heard? We're doing the necessary necessaries. Hold on a second. Let me get there. You know, 50 might be on or something with this movie, man. The Preacher was one bad individual, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Before I go.
They say I love you and you're my homie and you're my friend, bro. But we was raised to move in silence. You know, big shout out to my man Zeke Black, Double J, all them. You know, they used to tell me, you know, really Zeke Black, because Double J knew what time. I say it now to just say it like they say.
Definitely shout out to my man Unique. He just did dropping the full video, the full hour. Check out my man Unique Mecca Audio. Check out Prison Stories, Unique Mecca Audio. Shout out to Harlem. Uptown, man, stay tuned. We have more content coming out. Pat's story, but we can touch on other things that I'm talking about this, right? I was able to touch on some Preacher. I can bring out some facts, you know, articles. So this is definitely a dope ride. Shout out to Kevin Childs for what he said about Preacher. You know what I'm saying? We're going to bring that content to the table. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check out the documentary. You heard? Exactly. We in 88, 89. The game was changing. The streets was changing. You know what I'm saying? Streets was 40 belows. Coogee Rap Road the Riches. You know what I'm saying? The streets was changing. You know what I'm saying? The streets was changing. The Kick and Pre tapes. Remember, the Kick and Pre mixtapes was number one. You know what I'm saying? Now, he was just mentioning about, you know, got to check out that Vlad interview. He was just basically talking about Preacher. Like, Preacher was like what Preacher was into. Like, yo, he was doing this, that, and that, but he was, you know, Preacher was Preacher. He was mentioning at that time the streets was different. You know what I'm saying? But check out Vlad interview. Maybe you take the information in different. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. The Polo Gooses, yep, they was popping. Yep. The little shout out to the Low Lives. You can't believe the Low Lives is popping. The Decepticons is popping. That crew. Definitely for the Manhattan side, tearing that up. Definitely shout out to Sambo 105 PTC crew, the Upper West Side, right across the border for me. Yo, they just put a thing up in Central Park for the Central Park 5 in Central Park. Salute to that. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot going on, man. There's more. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Let me check that out, man. So I have to, you know, with that being said, I want to give everything in 2 hours. We got more coming tomorrow. We're going to drop more of Pat's story. In 88, 89, get your 40 belows on, get your Chuckers on, get your Jordans on, right? Get your J's on, get your Uptowns on. I believe they gave him something on that part of the park, you know what I'm saying? They definitely put something up there on that part of the park, you know what I'm saying? Let me shout out to the Wolf Pack, shout out to FTW, FEB, the East Side of Lynch Mob on 12th Street, the PT 131 crew, Delta Forces is popping. Shout out to my man Wiggs, Troll, Eddie Medina, Hector Mendez, you know what I'm saying? The whole Spanish Harlem, and the whole Spanish Harlem, the Brian Ave Boys, East Harlem and the Bronx, Bronx and East Harlem, the Brian Ave Boys. If you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? The Carver Mob, FEB, the Rush Mob, LBC, East Army, Jeff Mob, Flow Boys, 117 from Lex, Wagner, Taino. You know what I'm saying? Just we here, party people, we here. Shout out to the East Side, shout out to Forster. That being said, I gotta do the things I gotta do. We gotta do the things we gotta do. The necessaries. You know what I'm saying? The do's and the don'ts. Remember I told you that today. The do's and the don'ts. You know, nothing else to me. The do's and the don'ts. Shout out to Wifey Southern Belle. With that, I appreciate y'all. Salute. Share some of this shit. Like share the video. With that being said, shout out to Action Pack. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to DJ Action Pack. You know what I'm saying? Get Money Nation. You heard? That being said, my man DJ Capone too. Shout out to TJ Capone from the Polo Grounds. That being said, salute to y'all. Salute. I appreciate y'all. Boom.